So, I saw Mcconnell's stream, and I think that a lot of the stuff that he said is kind of true. And I want to address a number of the points that he said and a number of the things that kind of he talked about. Now, I am going to probably talk to Mcconnell off stream, but there are some things that I do want to make, like on stream, because those are the things that he talked about on stream. So I will talk to Mcconnell off stream, but number one, I just want to make sure that you guys understand that. Now, where do I start? Let me give the context. Yeah, let me just give the context. So the context of this is very simple. Basically, Mcconnell hasn't been on the stream for a long time, and yesterday there was a big conversation about it, and McConnell went on his stream and he talked about a lot of the reasons and things that he was concerned about. Now, I will talk to him about a lot of it off stream, but number one, I think, is about the classic stuff. Now, I do think that I was a dick with being, memeing on him for playing Rhett all the time. Now, I think every once in a while, memeing on somebody for playing Rhett, listen, if you're a Rhett Paladin, you have to at least get memed on sometimes. All right? Because let's not keep out of the fucking question that you're sitting there and you're willingly playing a spec that has sucked for 15 years. You know that it sucks, and you're still playing it because you like it. And that's fine. Play whatever you want. But don't expect some people to, say, hey, man, don't you think it's interesting that a warrior does 3 times as much damage? It's ridiculous. Now, obviously, there's more nuance to that. But to me personally, I do think that I memed on him a little bit too much about it. And I think also the chat playing into... And I think... So he said that I played into the chat getting mad about McConnell getting gear, and McConnell felt guilty about getting gear. I do think that I did that. I did that probably mostly unintentionally, but I didn't like the idea of McConnell getting gear as a Rhett Paladin whenever I felt like he wasn't contributing to the raid in the same way. Now, the main reason why I cared about that is because I viewed myself as being as the raid leader, I view myself as being the one responsible for the best, for the group in general, right? Having the group's best intentions in mind. So when doing that, if I'm doing, and this is obviously, it's actually not about having the group's best intentions in mind. Let me find a better way to explain it. I think that it's more that I want to not break people's trust. And for example, as a guild raid, whenever I feel like people want to be rewarded based off of their time and everything like that, well then, I'm not just going to randomly give it to somebody who's not putting in as much effort. And McConnell even said on his stream that he had kind of expected the guild to just be a bunch of simps that would give us gear like they do on retail. Which, I think that was a problem that he and I had in terms of our vision for the guild. And for me personally, my vision for the guild was I was going to be the main tank, and obviously a main tank would get a few extra pieces of gear. But as you guys know, on my warrior, I rolled off pretty much all the gear that I had, and in the same way that I reserved Thunder Fury for myself, I also reserved Sulfurous for McConnell. So other than that, I don't think I really reserved any gear for myself that wouldn't have made sense. Wait, a few extra pieces? No. No, what do you mean, a few extra pieces? And for me personally, so I actually like playing DPS much more than I like playing tank and classic. But the reason why I played tank and classic is that I felt like it was a role that was more important. And if I gave myself gear as a tank, I would have a better chance of getting gear as a tank. I think that's a better way of looking at it. If I gave myself gear as a tank, or I would have a better chance of getting gear as a tank, whatever you want to say it, it would make more sense because that's the way the game actually worked. And if I was a DPS warrior, I wouldn't have the same rationalization, the ability to rationalize giving myself a bunch of gear because there are plenty of other DPS warriors in the group. You yoinked gear, dude? Well, no. What gear did I yoink? This is a genuine question. What gear did I yoink? I didn't yoink any gear that was I don't think that I broke anyone's trust or yoinked any gear at all. The tier 2 helmet. Yes. So, alright, now we can just rule all of those people out as being as not being fucking idiots, okay? So, you just got the chromatic boots. Yeah, I got the chromatic boots. You're right. I won the roll on the chromatic boots. You're right. My warlock? Yes, so I'm talking about my warrior, right? And so I'm talking specifically and explicitly about guild raids. So in my mind, there's a difference between the way that you run a guild raid and the way that you run a pug raid. So what I do on a pug raid, I don't think is really relevant because it's not the same basis for my decision making. So for example, I had no problem making a raid for Mcconnell and getting him the Judgment Helm in a pug raid because I didn't have a degree of trust built up with those people. They went in there knowing that Mcconnell would get the helmet. I think a lot of people in our guild went into it thinking that there would be at least some sort of a fair shot. And so I felt like it was my responsibility to give them that. Okay? So, that's a good day. Well, no, and there's a lot for me to talk about, okay? I think about the fact you still have Dalrins as a tank. Yeah, I know that. Like, yeah, anybody thinks I'm just like randomly giving myself gear. Like, I have Dalrins. I have Dalrins as a tank. And somehow people think that I'm somehow fucking, I'm leeching gear. Like, are you kidding me, dude? And so another thing that bothered me, and this is like kind of a guild thing, is I felt like Mcconnell wasn't as invested into the guild as I was. And I don't feel like he was earning his co-GM spot. Like, he wasn't really present and like, you know, he wasn't taking an active leadership role in the guild. I think that he wasn't really putting in a lot of effort in the raid. Like, for example, like a lot of times he just put CatDany on follow basically and spam rank 1 flash of light. Like, I didn't like that. I wanted to have my guild be a genuine, legitimate guild. Because it would be very easy, for example, it would be very easy for me. I'm a streamer. And so what I could do is just simply go and tell everybody that, you know, all right, listen, I'm going to get all the gear first. And I think I could get a group of 40 people to get together and do that. Yeah, sure. But I chose not to do that because I wanted to have a more authentic experience, right? And I think that's even more obvious that was my goal now in Classic whenever I have a guild that makes all of the loot decisions and everything separate from me. Like, I don't really make loot decisions. Like, the loot system in my guild was made without my consent. Like, I did not make any of those decisions. I just came into the raid and they say, hey, listen up, Asmon. So, yeah, we changed the loot rules and this is what we want. And that's pretty much it. So now, you know, I have a legitimate guild and this is what I prefer. I would rather have that. And Mcconnell, I felt like wanted it to be a little bit different. You're not GM anymore in your guild? I am GM, but CatDany is basically the GM. And he gave up GM like a pussy? No, he gave me GM back. Like, he just wanted to set up and fix roles. Like, if CatDany kept GM, I wouldn't have really cared. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. Regardless, I mean, CatDany probably should be GM, if anything. But regardless of that, the point that I'm making is that I didn't look at raiding and Classic on my warrior, and I want to say this specifically on my warrior, in my guild raids, as a way for me to get basically simps to trade me gear. I wanted to have it be an actual, like, social, like, enjoyable experience for me, where I played with my friends and I made a community. And I think that's something that I'd emphasize multiple times. So, that's number one. And having dog shit specs, basically AFK and raid, is an authentic experience. Well, it is, but, like, let me just go ahead and move on. So, Mcconnell didn't really understand why we had Tim in the raid, and basically, like, why Tim was allowed to play red and why he wasn't. Here's why. Because I didn't make that decision. I logged on, and CatDany and Pellet and all the other guys in the guild were like, hey, yo, Tim's raiding with us as ret now. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, all right, cool. And that was it. So they made the decision without me. I did not make that decision. Now, I'm okay with it. And the reason why I didn't want to have rets raiding in the guild, the main reason, is because I thought the rest of the guild would think it was unfair. Because the rest of the guild is okay with it, I'm okay with it. My goal as a leader is partially to enforce the will of my group. As a leader, part of your responsibility in my mind is to make sure that you do something to basically act as the executor of the will of the people who you're leading. So, for example, if everybody in the group wants to have a rep paladin and they're okay with it, then I should be okay with it because that's my group that I'm leading. And so, because of that, they were okay with it and I was okay with it. That was what the change was. But the decision didn't even come from me. I did not make the decision. I did not have any input in the decision. I logged on and Tim was in the raid. And I was like, you know what? If they're fine with it, I'm fine with it. Who gives a fuck? That's my opinion. Guild fucked over Mcconnell and you let it happen, basically. How do you feel like my guild fucked over Mcconnell? I'm actually curious about that. How do you feel like they fucked him over? Don't rationalize this by distancing yourself from your friend because it wasn't your decision. Well, no, what I'm saying is that, like, the reason why I made the decision is that I didn't think other people in the guild would want to have a Ret Paladin rating because I thought it would be unfair based off of my projected psychological analysis, right? Like, I thought that people would consider it demotivating to have a Ret Paladin in raid that was doing less damage, that was doing it by default, and that was choosing to do it, that willingly handicapped themselves, and that got the gear on the same level as they did. What I didn't account for was the fact that my guild would actually become a group of friends that ended up caring more about the friendship and the community that they had built up more than the individual output of each player. So that was something I did not account for. And that was the difference. So I didn't realize that they had established that level of trust. As it should be? Well, yeah, as it should be. Like, that's right, but that doesn't mean that that's how it is. Like, and also, like, I do think that it's more nuanced than that. I do absolutely think that it's more nuanced than that. But, what about CatDany muting Mcconnell in Discord? That's between them. Like, that's totally between them. Like, I'm not, like, I don't know. You go Discord really bitchy towards Mcconnell yesterday in raid. Well, I think that a lot of people got the wrong idea because Mcconnell logged back on the Classic after a few months, the day that we were speedrunning BWL and we got a new record, right? So it's like you guys know this, right? It's like, you know, like girls that break up with you and then they start talking to you once you start working out again? Or like the girl in high school, like you're a girl and like you lose weight between high school and college and all the guys that used to call you fat are trying to hit on you. And then, you know, in WoW, like, let's imagine, like, you got a raider that just randomly disappears halfway through progression, and then just suddenly, by this weird coincidence, he just seems to show up the same week that you killed the last boss. Just randomly. I don't know, it's like this weird thing. Yeah, I mean, come on. You want to throw away a friendship from cool? Well, no, what I'm saying is that the reason why Mcconnell has like problems, and I'm just going to talk about the raid stuff. This is literally the easiest thing for me to talk about. And I want to explain this because there's a lot of other stuff that is more complex than this. And I'm getting the raid stuff out of the way now because there's a lot of like interpersonal stuff between Mcconnell and I. Some of it I'll talk about on stream, some of it I won't. But I want you guys to understand, like, this is not the reason why Mcconnell is pissed off had nothing to do with the helmet. Okay? He said that a dozen times. You're forgetting the part where you're friends? No, I'm not. That's the hard part for me to talk about. And that's why I wanted to get the easy part, Classic, out of the way. Classic and us disagreeing whether a Ret Paladin can raid or not ultimately doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't make a difference. One thing that Mcconnell said to me yesterday, or not said to me, he said yesterday, is that we didn't really hang out a lot off stream. And like, we didn't really like do things that like friends would do. And we used to do that a lot. And at a point, it just kind of stopped. And that's really what happened, is it kind of just stopped. And I want to explain why it stopped, because I feel like it's a very important thing for me to talk about. Metaphorically, 2 years ago, I basically killed myself. I stopped being Zach and I started being Asmongold. I tried so hard to make my stream successful. I ended up alienating a lot of friends, and I ended up moving in a position and in a direction, and I did it, and I'm glad that I did it, and I'll explain why afterwards. But I stopped hanging out with a lot of my friends, And as much. Obviously, I still do sometimes, but I stopped doing it as much. And I stopped doing the things that really kind of made me me. And what ended up happening is that I remember I learned this, I thought about this whenever I took my break last time, or this time, is that I didn't really have like the same friends that I used to have. And it's not because they moved on, it's because I just haven't really done anything with them at all. I just kind of just do my own thing, and that's it. And I'm glad that I did it, because you never know really what you can do unless you push yourself to your limit. And I did, in a way. I focused entirely, like all of my mental thoughts and everything I put into trying to make my stream as good as possible. And, you know, I'm really proud of that. I am. But it came at the expense of who I was as a person and my own enjoyment of my friends and things that I liked. And the reason I'm glad that I did it is that now I know that it was the wrong decision. And if I never made the decision, I would have always longed for the opportunity to do so. I would have always wondered what it would have been like if I took the chance and I did it. And I did. And I don't regret it. But now I'm done with it. I made the decision like that. I couldn't be where I am now if I wasn't where I was at. It's impossible. So I thought that, like, coming back, yeah, gay, shut up. So I wanted to come back and be more of Zach, spend more time hanging out with my friends. Like, you can ask Eric or Alec or Jeff or, you know, a lot of my friends, like, I haven't hung out with them as much as I probably should. And that was, you know, regardless if I should have done it or not, I'm glad that I did do it, because now I've done it and I don't need to think about what would happen if I did it, if that makes sense. And maybe stop wasting time on retail off stream. Well, it's more than that. Like, I'm not really wasting time. I'm usually like thinking about things, right? And doing that kind of stuff. And so it was very hard for me to balance the two things. And whenever I started streaming like very regularly all the time, and like focusing on that and trying to like spend all my time like figuring out how to make my streams better and everything like that, I ended up doing something that was like not really compatible with having a fulfilling and a wholesome life. And not wholesome as in like, oh wow, it's two frogs kissing, but wholesome as in like holistic, if that makes sense. And this authentic, yeah, no, it's important to be authentic. The reason because I thought about talking about this last night, and I was going to make a video about it, but the reason I didn't was because I think saying it extemporaneously on stream, right, just live, is maybe a little bit more powerful, because you know that it's more real. You know, like, you guys are here. This isn't like a fucking, you know, this isn't a recording or anything like that. This is what it is. And Zach is greater than Asmon. Well, I don't really. It's not about which one is greater or anything. Like, Asmon is Zach. Like, I'm not two different people. It's just that basically, it's more or less like I focus so much on doing my stream and making my stream the prime extension of my personality and my creativity, that anytime that my stream would not do well or I would have a bad stream, I would take it too personally, because it was so central to my self-identity. Does that make sense? So the reason why I took a break for so long is because I knew that effectively, in a lot of ways, kills momentum for streams. It does. Like, obviously, coming back, you have a chance to, you know, you like, usually comeback streams do well. But most of the time, after you do your comeback stream for a while, you just go back to where you were at originally. And that's pretty much it. And I figured, you know, whenever I came back, I was like, you know what? If I come back and nobody wants to watch me, then that's my choice, and I made that happen. And so in a way, by creating a situation where I could have killed everything that I tried to create, it allowed me to overcome it. Does that make sense? and allowed me to kind of compartmentalize it and understand it. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I probably could say it better on a video, but you know, I'm doing my best. Overcome the obsession. Yeah, exactly. You know, kill your darlings, kill what you love. And that makes you able to appreciate it in a healthy way rather than an obsessive way. It's like Gollum in the Ring, if that makes sense. Sacrifice wasn't the wrong decision, though? Well, no, I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. It's not about being the right or the wrong decision, but it's something that I think a lot of people probably should go through at one point in their life because it helps them realize what's really important to them. The best way to figure out what the wrong decision is or what the right decision is to make the wrong decision. It's like kind of knowing, like flipping a coin. This is like a weird metaphor, right? But like flipping a coin, whether you're going to do one thing or another thing, it's not the importance of flipping the coin. It's that whenever the coin's in the air, where do you want it to land? And that's how you really tell what you want to do. And I think that's probably the best way to look at it. Make sure that doesn't knock me off. Can you read donos? Yeah, I'll read donos in just a few minutes here, but I'd rather focus on like kind of talking about what I wanted to talk about. Learn from mistakes. Well, yeah, of course, learn from mistakes. So how does that relate to Mcconnell? I would be so mentally exhausted with my streams that I would just be done with it. Like, I would just not want to talk to anyone after my streams. I would just want to sit there and do nothing. I wouldn't want to talk to anyone. I wouldn't want to see anyone. I wouldn't want to talk to my parents. I was just fucking exhausted. And a lot of that was with the drama. A lot of that was with a lot of other things. And I just learned that it was not a... it was not a good experience. I know the feel. Yeah, you're just fucking exhausted. You're done with it. You don't want to hear it anymore. And you just want to move on and live your fucking life. Yeah, just mentally fucking drained. And those would usually be the times where I just hang out with Mcconnell. And we just talk about shit. But because I was so mentally drained, I wouldn't want to hang out with anyone. And he's right. Like, we haven't hung out or done anything together in a long time. And that sucks, because he's been my friend for like 7 years, right? It's been a long time. And it's like we did the stream together and we got in through all of that stuff together. It's not just like, it's not like a bullshit on stream thing. Like, obviously we'll play things up for the stream, but there's a lot of it that's also real too. Yeah, there's a lot of it that's real too. And he's more than your friend? Yeah, I think so. He is. And have you gotten any anxiety from playing World of Warcraft? Yeah, I mean, there's been a number of times I've gotten in a boss fight with a new guild, and I've been like, oh my god, if I wipe this, I'm gonna fucking get kicked. Yeah, of course. But listen, it's beside the point. The point is that if I'd feel that way, it's not his fault. Like, there are things that Mcconnell has done that's made me mad. And I would talk to him about that, like, off stream, you know, that's, like, bothered me. But for the most part, it's just purely because I've been drained. That's really all there is to it. Am I fucking here, dude? Yeah, and, like, there's a lot of other shit that I don't want to talk about on my stream, right? And like, that's off-stream kind of stuff. But that's a big part of it. And the reason I'm telling everybody this is that I think that it's something that everybody can kind of like learn from in a way. And I feel like a lot of streamers probably just like don't talk about this kind of stuff because they don't want to have like their viewers like think weird things about them or something like that. But I prefer people to know really what's going on. And that's kind of the way that I look at it. That's what I think is important. So let's go ahead and kill this. Thank you for transparency. Yeah, I think it's important to be transparent with the audience because if you don't do that, then it's like, what's this all for? You know, I think that a lot of creative endeavors are partially done for like the realization of the self. And if the realization of the self is impossible, then what's the point of creating anything? You know, like I don't know, like it's like very complex, but that's the way that I see it. And I do fully intend on getting Azeroth's champion with Mcconnell. Like, this is like, he thinks that, oh, I don't know if he's gonna do it with me. I don't know. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Fuck do you mean we're not gonna do it? You're gonna lose the best, one of the coolest titles in the whole fucking game? No, of course we're gonna do it. He needs to get 2,400. Like, that's the reason, that's why he's worried. Everything else is a joke. Everything else is a fucking joke. So yeah, I'll talk to Mcconnell off stream. But those are the on-stream things that I think need to be said. You don't think talking about this to strangers is kind of lame? Well, not really, because a lot of people aren't really strangers. Like, they've watched my stream for years. You know, they know who I am, and they've watched my content for a long time. And I think that really, talking about these kinds of things, that's what makes them not really strangers in a way. And yes, obviously they'll always be strangers. Many of my viewers I'll never meet. And it's not about having the physical connection. It's about seeing somebody who helps you look at yourself and the world in a different way. Just because, like, there are plenty of people who authors have had a profound impact on their life. And it's not because of the, it's not because they met them. It's because of what their work did for that person. And the only thing that I can hope is that by talking about things like this that are more personal, that do matter more in a way, and that are, like, kind of more private, that it can help people get to that point too.